There is a thought process for a lot of people that there's one piece of pie and that you only get a certain portion of the pie. But the abundance is that there's unlimited pie. You just need to do the work to make sure that you're creating the right habits and behaviors to ensure that the abundance comes to you.
Wake up, it's time to rise. Talking money with sharp insight. Jim and Ryan here to guide. Mastering the money ride. Saving stacks and planning dreams. Living large by honest means. Tune in now for the schemes. Breaking down financial themes. Money mindset every day. Mastering.
Welcome to the Money Mindset Mastery Podcast. I'm your host, Jim. Joining me today, as always, is my co-host, Ryan Janot. Ryan, how are things today?
Good. He's just going by your first name this time instead of the full name. So
I know.
Bond. James Bond. Jim.
Yes. So what are we talking about today, Ryan?
8 money habits. 8 money habits that are preventing you from growing your wealth. And I think as I look across and the kids are getting out of school, I think it's important that we as adults and parents, for those that do have kids, that we're creating the best habits, and at the same time that we're teaching these habits to the next generation. I know it's important because I have these conversations with my son often enough about wants versus needs and what are our values, and making sure that we're able to achieve and do the things that we want to do. So, and I think it was a great conversation. We've been talking about different topics, and this often comes up. And again, mindset. I think a big overall umbrella conversation is the mindset around people taking these first few steps. Again, best day to start saving is today, right? Before you get 15 years down the road and things have gone not the way that you want them. And yeah, we'll kind of go through, I know the 8 habits that you had written in kind of a blend blog, and something that you had shared with me too, some information. So yeah.
I don't really think any of these are going to be surprises for people, but I think really we're going to have this conversation more as a reminder and as a refresher for a lot of people. And these are things that impact or prevent us from creating wealth in the future. And you're right. If we're creating these bad habits for ourselves, we're sharing those bad habits with the younger generation. We're trying to stop that, right? We want them to be smarter than us and better than us at managing money. So let's get started. The first one is lifestyle creep. So Ryan, what is lifestyle creep?
What I believe lifestyle creep is increasing your daily spending habits, and the things that are in our life, like groceries, making sure that we're not contributing enough to retirement or whatever goal that we might have, and that can very easily, that lifestyle kind of snowballs. And I'm sure we're going to use the word snowball at one point again later on today, but it can snowball very.
Please don't. I really don't want winter to come anytime soon.
Yeah. And I just commented on our family, but it also reflects to the people that we surround ourselves with. I'm going to take a step back for a second, but also include, you're a reflection of the 5 closest people to you. And are you somebody that is encouraging wealth growth within your friend group, or are you potentially the person that is creeping and training the rest of your friends on a lifestyle that will quickly spin out of control? And, I had a guest, we were chatting, and the latest 2024, 2025 numbers, Canadians sit with $67,000 or $68,000 worth of consumer debt, which is a crazy amount to think about. But who are you spending your time with, right? And how that can creep that lifestyle of wanting the new car, the new iPhone, the new shoes, all great things to set goals for, to achieve. And again, the gentleman that I was talking with too, Sean, who will hopefully be listening to, is that allowing your assets to pay for those liabilities and finding those ways. And for younger listeners too, that's something we'll always dig into of making sure that you're making the right of money and that you're buying assets. So anyway, I got
Yeah,
off
and
tangent.
where it also happens too is I very rarely have clients call me saying, "Hey, I just received a big raise. I want to now start increasing my savings or my contributions." Usually, what happens is I find out after the fact they've received a big raise and they still have no money at the end of the month, and it's because of lifestyle creep. Well, I've been without this for a period of time. Now I can afford it. So now I'm spending more towards whatever that might be. Right. So, really, to not sabotage your future wealth, what you may want to consider doing when it comes to lifestyle creep is if you do change jobs that's paying you more money, or you do receive a bonus or a raise, you should enjoy some of that because you've worked really, really hard. But I think at the same time, to protect yourself, what you should also do is consider increasing some of your contributions as well. Right. So we're not saying don't increase your lifestyle spending necessarily. Just don't take that entire raise towards lifestyle spending. Take some of it, increase your contributions. So that way, you're, because at some point, if you don't do that and you retire, your lifestyle is going to change drastically because you're just not going to have enough. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's where it can cause a problem. So the next one, now this comes from an article. You and I, Ryan, for the most part, do not believe in
The,
budgets.
the B word, budgets.
Exactly. But it's not so much ignoring the budget. For our purposes, we'll say ignoring the behavioral cash flow plan that we set up for people, where we identify the spendables and the fixed costs or committed expenses,
Yeah.
right? So maybe talk a little bit about more about that. Number two.
B is for budgeting, and it's not good enough for me. That's the Sesame Street rhyme that we're going with today. Yeah, we talk often about cash flow, and really simply put, it's understanding truly what the income is, or the revenue that's coming into yourself or your business, because we use cash flow for businesses also, and what are the expenses going out. And there's a very high number. I'm not going to make up a number to say, but there's a very large percentage of people that actually don't know what that number is of cash flow in, cash flow out. And it's very important that we do these kind of coaching conversations and make people aware, their own awareness, to find out what over the last 3 months or 6 months spread, or if you're really diligent, you want to do a full year, really understand what's truly coming in and what's going out. And that awareness that we often talk about really puts things in perspective for a lot of people as to things are out of control that I didn't realize. For some, they didn't realize it was out of control. For others, it was just a habit that they learnt through, being in a group of people, or potentially something that they learned from family members over the years. It's in their DNA. But to never ignore that cash flow. There's lots of great wealth advisors out there that, if they're doing their job, one of the questions that they will ask you is, do you know what your current cash flow is? Again, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, a book that I've talked about before that I read really early, really talks a lot about that, understanding your cash flow. And it's B word, the budgeting word, is really about really short-term goals. I'm budgeting for a car, I'm budgeting for a trip, and what are you willing to spend on that trip that fits within your kind of allowance of what you want to spend on it. And there's a lot of gratification of setting that goal, staying within that goal, or even coming in underneath that goal, because then that can be returned to whatever the next goal is. So,
Right. Now, the next one I admittedly struggle with from time to time. I've been open about this, but emotional spending, that can also derail your future wealth. And sometimes it could be based on stress. You're just stressed and you're going to go out there and spend a bunch of money on whatever it might be to help you feel better, for me, it's not so much stress. For me, sometimes it's actually the boredom part of it, right? Is sometimes I get bored. I'm on my phone. I've got the Amazon app installed on the phone, and it's just too easy to say, boop, and have it delivered the next day. So that's where I struggle sometimes as well, admittedly. And the celebration aspect as well. Like we're in an industry, Ryan, you and I, where our income varies from month to month. And sometimes we can go through a month or two where things are really tight, and then you have a great month. And I know when I've had those situations, mostly in the past, um, it'd be like, hey, I've been struggling for the last 2 months. I've got a bit of a windfall. I'm going to go out and spend it on whatever it might be. I've gotten better, obviously, with that. Because what I do now is I implement the 24-hour rule, which is, you know what? Do I really need this? Is it more a want or is it a need? And a lot of times now I'm able to talk myself out of some of these purchases. I try to justify it, and now I'm just not able to justify them. It's just like I'm just spending money for the sake of spending money. That's not a good thing, right?
Yeah.
So I've helped myself in changing kind of some of those habits on the emotional spending side of things. Anything else that you can share?
Well, I think the Winton app for the cash flow really helps people understand where they're currently at, where they can overindulge in those times they're overspending. Again, you say 24 hours. Yeah, 24 to 48 hours is always a good time to really think about whether it's a need or a want for yourself. Are you satisfying some current need to indulge in that thing? And the question then is asking it out loud: do I really need this? And what is it satisfying if I do buy this? And I've used this with Walker. We talk about this often. Yeah, you're welcome to spend. What will this serve as a purpose down the road, say in a week's time or 2 weeks time? Because we all go through our kids or even our own closets. You're like, why did I buy these jeans? Or why did I buy this? Why did my son decide to buy this toy when he only played with it once or twice? And now he's making smart decisions on how he can continue to make sure that that toy is being used, that he's taking care of it, or he's being like, I don't need this. I'd rather achieve this other thing like buying a bike or whatever. So it takes a lot of self-discipline when it comes to this. And if you have the right support group around you of shooting ideas off, and many times that I've found more recently too is you'd be surprised how many people have these things lying around that they never use that they're willing to just give it to you or give it to you for a few dollars, then going and spending a bunch of money for it. So again, you're still rewarding yourself by having that item, but it's not costing your budget or your longer term goals any differently. So yeah.
The next one is also somewhat obvious, is really not investing early enough, right? If we look at the power of compound interest, the more time that your funds are compounding, the greater that number is going to be when you finally need it. And a lot of people think that investing is very difficult to do, even in small amounts. And what I recommend to the younger people is listen, if you can set aside $25 a month as a starting point. Now, a lot of investment companies may not accept a $25 a month contribution. This is where, and I know we've kind of don't speak highly of them, but this is where the robo advisor platforms are quite helpful because many of them will allow a small contribution amount as a starting point. So it's just a matter of starting and automating it. That's the other part as well, right? If you automate it, it'll take about 2 or 3 months to get used to the fact that that money's coming off the top of whatever payroll or however you're receiving your income. And it's going to be invested directly into the portfolio. After about 3 months or so, you're going to readjust automatically. It's not going to be difficult to do. And you will feel wonderful when you do look at your account statement and see that you've accumulated X amount of funds into a bank account or an investment account that you can use in the future. So really, it's all about not starting early enough. Unlike some people that I used to get who would come to me at age 55 saying, Jim, I've got 10 years to retire and I've got nothing saved and I want to maintain my current standard of living. What do I need to do? And it's not impossible, but trust me, because we don't have a lot of time left, it definitely makes it more challenging to meet some of those goals. Anything else that you want to add to that?
One of the big things people often mix up is saving versus investing. So you're bang on, pay yourself first, making sure that you're making it part of your day to day, that it becomes, I would say, almost like it becomes an expense to pay yourself to invest that money. And again, I wish I thought about this earlier, which is like seeing the difference. And I'm sure there's lots of places that we can find this information to do. But the idea of spending or saving $5 a day, as an example, at the end of the year, you have about the equal amount of around $1,800, $5 a day at the end of the year, and how that over the course of say 30 years, if you're just saving $5 a day in a local bank account, I want to say the number is like around 55,000, which is pretty good. You're like, oh, $5 a day over 30 years, that's good money. But investing that money could turn into, and I've seen people, depending on the interest rate that you want to use, 5 to kind of 7%, you're probably looking at over close to $400,000. So the difference that can really accumulate, again, that snowball effect that happens with compound interest, and that the difference that I've seen many times, and I know we've used with clients when we talk one-on-one, the difference of starting at age 25 versus starting at age 35 versus starting at age 45. Mm. And the amount that you have to start, somebody who starts saving X amount per month at 25 to retirement I know there's a gentleman that I know we don't agree with all the stuff, but he uses an example that if you save the right amount, I think he uses $1,000 a month. By the time you retire at between 25 and 65, you'll have over $1 million as long as you're investing in the right portfolios. Right. But if you wait till 35, that amount is like 700,000. If you wait till 45, that amount is like 300,000. So the significant difference that can happen, really, the cost of waiting is what I'm trying to get at. Yeah. And I know we could throw up a bunch of graphs and people can go out and look for the right calculators, which I think, Jim, we may have just added something similar to that.
Well, recently. I was going to say there's lost opportunity costs. You're talking about the cost of waiting.
Yeah.
We did create a calculator that illustrates lost opportunity costs. So that will be on our website at some point over the next week or so. But that also illustrates the power of compounding. You know what? While we're on it, maybe I can quickly show an illustration of that. I don't have...
And then I can finally do my song and dance to entertain the people that are listening until you get that up and ready. But there are some great programs, apps, and again, our coaching piece really reflects this idea of making sure that you're using time as a way of accumulating wealth, and again, simple terms of making sure that you're not just saving money in a bank account, earning a whopping 0.5%. It's such a steal, versus looking for the right investments that meet your risk need too.
Yeah. All right. So we've created this. If you want to go directly to the tool itself, it's lost opportunity cost calculator.tvhfinancial.ca. Again, we will be adding it to our website at some point. So it'll explain what lost opportunity cost. What I really want to show you here is there's this misconception that if you, for example, buy a car, and if the interest rate on the loan is, let's call it 6%, that if your investment portfolio, you'd have to have a higher rate of return than the cost in order for you to win. But because of compounding, that's not really the case. So I'm going to use this scenario here. So we're going to say a car loan, $30,000. We'll use 6.5% as the car loan rate. Let's say 5 years time, and I'm going to use the investment return. So what if you had the money invested, the 30,000, compounding at 6.5% over the next 5 years? What does that look like? And look at this. So over the 5 year period, you'll see in the detailed analysis, your monthly payment for the car loan, if you decided to do the car loan, was $587 a month. Your total payments $35,219. Your total interest cost is $5,219. But if you decided you want to pay cash for this, so you took the money out of your investment portfolio, let's say a TFSA as an example, you would have missed out on earning $11,000 over the same 5 year period if you were also earning 6.5% interest rate. That's a significant difference. That's about $5,800 in this scenario if you compare the two that you would miss out on if you use your own cash as opposed to getting a car loan. And it's not because the rate of return on the investment is higher than the interest cost. They're both equal. It's because of the compounding effect, right? So I'm glad you mentioned that because I think that's very important for people to see and understand. So let's go back to this one here. So we've proven that point. The next one is carrying high interest debt. So carrying credit card debt at, call it 20, 22%. So that's where in this scenario, like if we did the 6.5% investment return and we put that up against a 22% credit card debt, the credit card debt is going to be that much higher. So in that scenario, we would say try to lower your credit card debt as much as you possibly can. Right?
And I guess a lot of times I have conversations with clients that don't understand the interest rates that their credit cards are currently holding. Often, they have an introductory rate of 7% for 3 months, then it shoots up to 25% after that. So, one, awareness, making sure you understand what your current credit cards are being charged. Again, there's lots of strategies and ways to get around that. But again, as you just said, if you're holding money in a bank's high interest savings account earning 0.5% of $50,000, meanwhile, over here on side B is you're holding 25, 30,000 worth of credit card debt. We can do the math. Let's do the math and make sure you understand what you're paying extra and how much longer that debt's going to hold. Although you're making the bank executives lots and lots of bonuses. So if that's your jive, then go ahead. But our recommendation would be, let's look at the numbers. Let's see what works best for you and what your ultimate goal is. But again, there's two strategies that we talk about or that they're out there, which is the avalanche and the snowball method. Again, sorry to bring up hopefully what will be soon to be summer and talking about winter terms, but do you want to take people through the avalanche or snowball, Jim?
I don't think we want to get into too much detail. I mean, you don't have to do much mathing on that situation, Ryan. The bottom line is if you're earning 0.5% on 25,000 or 20,000 and you're paying 22% on the same balance on a credit card, there's really not much mathing you have to do, right? You're gonna win 21.5% if you just take the cash and pay off the credit card debt. That's just how simple that scenario really is. The only consideration would be, having access to that capital. But if you don't close out the credit card and you're in trouble and you need to use it again, ideally you don't want to. But that's the only time we might suggest to somebody where they might not want to pay the full credit card off because they might need access to some of that money.
Yeah.
Right. So that's pretty straightforward.
The roof's going to go, or you're putting a down payment on a house.
For sure. The next one, and I've lived in areas where this was quite obvious with neighbors in the past, keeping up with the Joneses. But before, keeping up with the Joneses really was more kind of within the neighborhood. But now it's like social media. trying to keep up with social media influencers, right? Where they sit there and they snap a picture of themselves on a yacht or a Ferrari, making you think that they actually own the Ferrari or the yacht, and then you find out after the fact they've rented it or was a friend's or whatever. So there's this illusion that they're
Yeah.
doing well, but they're really not, right?
Yeah.
And then we feel like we're missing out. It's like, well, why is that individual able to afford whatever that I really want? And then you try to keep up with them, right? And sometimes you do that by dipping into credit card and and credit, and that's where people get themselves into a lot of trouble. I don't take you as someone who ever played that game of trying to keep up with the Joneses.
I don't believe I have,
No, I
but
don't
I'm
think so.
sure. I'm sure when I was young, there was a few times that I bought Patrick Ewing basketball shoes that I probably didn't need at the time, but
Right.
who knows?
Oh,
So,
not so much to keep up. It was just making you think that you could probably play like Patrick Ewing, right? So
yeah, yeah,
awesome. The next one, and this is again an obvious one, which we are faced with on a daily basis with a lot of new people that we work with, not having any financial goals. It's amazing when you and I speak with a new client and we ask them about some of their goals, and they'll say to us, "Well, our goal is to retire at 65, and that's it." And we'll ask, "Well, do you know if that's achievable?" Well, I think so. Well, you think so based on what? And this is where we map it out. And in many cases, they realize they're not doing enough to reach some of those goals. They don't even know what income they require in retirement to be able to retire comfortably, right? So that's something that we definitely encourage people is set some goals for yourself. We can start off with some short-term goals, very simple ones, very achievable ones. You can feel good about yourself. It is hard to really envision achieving the goal 30 years from now, but it is something that I think people should try to do.
yeah. With the cash flow too, it's about understanding. We were just talking about this earlier today. At what point do you start talking about or really thinking about retirement? And I think for the most part, a lot of people, I look at it at least like 15 years, if not earlier than that, about what that is. But it's not necessarily planning what your retirement is. It's planning as each kind of milestone passes 10 years, 15, or sorry, backwards 15, 10, 5, as you move towards retirement, you start getting a clearer idea of what that retirement looks like and feels like for you. But also at the same time, going through the cash flow process, you really understand of what other potential big ticket things will happen in retirement. And that you're never too old to set goals along the way, right? Because this small goal setting allows you to make sure that you're finding joy in the travel or spending time with the grandchildren or buying that boat and sailing around the world that you always wanted to do, and making sure that we're helping you, as we've done with many clients, helping people really clarify and understand what it is that they're reaching towards and what they could potentially expect when that happens. So, and you said it too, setting smart goals. I know we've talked about this on past podcasts too, is making sure that you're setting something that's a little bit more specific besides, I want to retire when I'm 65, right? What does that look like? How much do you truly need? We'd often talk about, what true rate of return would you actually need to achieve that goal based on the expenses that you have in retirement versus people living a very stressful life and trying to chase a, you know, 18 to 22% return. And what does that effect on your health mean? And I can tell you that a lot of the clients that we work with, taking that ease off of not trying to chase this kind of up and down rate, but kind of to the name of our TVH, tortoise versus hare, is slow and steady wins the race, and how that can be very achievable for people's goals, especially when you start early, or if you're starting later, that you're more focused on it. So
We're very honest with clients. I mean, I've had individuals, and I know Ryan, you have as well, where they're trying to achieve a certain income target for retirement. They set out their goals. And then when you look at everything that they've done, there's no way that it's possible because they're not making any changes to their financial situation. But what they're focusing on is, well, you need to get me a better rate of return. The 7% average that you're projecting is clearly not enough. The program will say, well, you need about 16% annual rate of return throughout the life of the plan, meaning from age 50, for example, until age 90 on the second death of the spouse. And they're like, yeah, well, you need to do a better job of investing for me. It's not sustainable. It's not realistic. You have to make your adjustments. You have to contribute to the plan as well. And we also have to incorporate some multiplication strategies where we potentially can use existing assets to help multiply and create more assets. But the bottom line is we can only make the recommendation, reasonable recommendations. It's up to the individuals to also do their part within reason. That's a big one, right? And I know I've had clients who've said to me, sorry, where, I've helped them get to retirement 25 years later, and they're thankful to me. They're like, we never thought we would be able to retire, but because of the work that I've done for them, that they're very thankful. And I said, no, you did the work as well. You did your part. All I did was I found the gaps, I made the recommendations, but you then followed through with those recommendations. You're definitely part of the reason why we've achieved this retirement goal. It's not all on me, right? It's a team situation.
Yeah. I think you hit it right on the head when it comes to that. It is a team. When us as advisors, we can only advise whether the person decides to start taking the steps towards it, which also leads into our next point, which is like avoiding financial education. Mm-hmm. And that's what we've talked about a lot.
So listen to our YouTube or watch our YouTube and listen to our podcasts and read our blogs, right?
Yeah.
Lots of education.
Again, between the coaching, we've always said this from the beginning, when me coming into the TVH, my parents always wanting me to be a teacher, wanting to educate yourself, finding the right people or right sources for that education. There's some great books. I know I talk about them a lot. If you're ever looking for certain books about helping your mindset, between our podcast, our own mindset blogs and things like that. But making sure that you're taking the steps to educate yourself, to make sure you're doing the right steps to help yourself, your family, and your business to achieve these pieces. And we've said it many times before about surrounding yourself with a core team that is truly invested in helping people achieve their goals. Because without that, it's really, if you don't do the education, it really is a self-fulfilling prophecy of failure. And if you're not surrounding yourself with the right people, if you're not focused on what your own values are in comparison to what social media says your values should be and the things that you should have in your life, then I think it's really important that people take a step back to have that conversation with their business partners, themselves, and their family about what it is that's important to them. And again, there's lots of great free resources going to the library. You're welcome to reach out to me or Jim and ask I know, Jim, you said you don't read as many books. You listen to lots of podcasts.
I listen. I'm a really good listener. I'm not a very good reader.
Yeah. So, but there's lots of great resources out there for us to talk about, and I'd love to share. So,
yeah. Now, we said that there was 8 money habits that are preventing people from growing their wealth. It's time for a twist, and I'm going to throw a wrench in all this. I'm going to add a 9th. There's probably a lot more. And the 9th one, Ryan, you and I may have some differing opinions on it, but I did pull this from another article, and it is listed in the article. Okay. You ready for it?
Yeah.
Throwing out to the universe and having the universe send you money. And I don't believe in that. I know maybe you have a differing of opinion, but my personal belief in it is just simply throwing it out there in the universe and allowing money to all of a sudden show up. If it was that easy, we'd all be doing it. I think really what we've illustrated with the 8 habits prior to the 9th one, you have to work at it.
Yep.
Right.
You do. I agree. You do have to work at it, and that's probably part of the putting it out there into the universe, which is the abundance mentality, right? There is a thought process for a lot of people that there is one piece of pie, and that you only get a certain portion of the pie. But the abundance is that there's unlimited pie. You just need to do the work to make sure that you're creating the right habits and behaviors to ensure that the abundance comes to you. And again, the universe will bring you amazing people into your life if you're open to it, right? And again, I know there's rhyme and reason why you and I came in contact with each other. Same with every person that I've met along the way. That we're all connected in some way, and the universe has some crazy game that they're trying to play to make sure that we figure it out, and then we all come back as dogs or not dogs or something. I don't know. In a loving family relationship of a belly rub. So anyway,
well, until the point where you said we all come back as dogs, I was going to say you pinned me my shoulders to the mat. You got the count of 3, but then after that, I think I did a good old Hulk Hogan, and I just like jumped up.
Yeah. Oh.
But no, that's a good explanation.
I've met your crazy little puppy, so yeah, I get it.
No, but you know what? I mean, the way you've explained it, because I think the whole throwing it out to the universe was just simply that, just throwing it to the universe and it's going to show up. Or I'm a Christian, and some Christians will pray for money, and I've never prayed for money. But they believe that if they pray for it, it'll come as well. And I just never thought it was that simple. But the way you explained it about the abundance aspect to it and being open, because here's one of it: being open to listening to our podcast, being open to watching our YouTube video, being open to having a chat with us that potentially could change someone's path, right? Being open to learn, listen. You can listen to different podcasters and YouTubers, different financial gurus. Doesn't mean you have to follow everything that they recommend to a T, but you might pick up bits and pieces to help you along the way. So I definitely do believe in that, is being open to those possibilities, to the education, to meeting different people to learn from. That for sure, I can say that number 9, put it out to the universe, if that's the approach that you take.
Yep. Right? We're going with that.
All right. So again, I was expecting a boxing match, but we didn't get to a boxing match.
Sorry.
Man, well, you're just too nice of a guy. That's the problem. Well, listen, we've gone through 9, even though we said 8. What we recommend, again, for all of you that are watching and listening, if you want to find out more, go to our website, go to our social media accounts. We would encourage you to subscribe and share a lot of our content, because the more and more people that listen to our point of view, it's just, again, another tool in their toolbox. We're not saying we're 100% right in everything we recommend. We're not for everybody. I think we've said that as well, right? Tortoise versus hare. We're definitely that slow and steady approach. But maybe someone will pick up a piece or two of information that might be helpful and maybe course correct, right, in terms of their financial journey. So anything else you want to add, Ryan, before we shut it down until our next episode next week?
No, I think you covered everything. Again, there was a kid today when I was on a walk with my neighbor's dog who had their head down completely, and I honestly thought they were going to run into us until the last second that the little dog Emma made a little move and caught the attention of this young person walking to the bus stop. Don't walk through life with your head down. Keep your head up and be very aware of the opportunities and the abundance that is out there for all of us, and surround yourself with the right people that are willing to really want to take care of you and hope and wish and always guide you in succeeding. So
couldn't have said it better myself. So thanks, Ryan. Thanks, everyone. Until next time, we'll see you next week. Take care.
Take care.
Why is it me? Why am I a guy? I still